We left off on July 17th of 1936, where the insurrection officially begins in North Africa and then spreads to mainland Spain. The Phalange and friends, trademark, managed to capture many beneficial cities and provincial capitals initially, but Madrid and Barcelona resist the nationalists. General Franco the following day would broadcast a signal from his post in the Canary Islands that the insurrection has begun. General Sanjurjo, a prominent officer, is killed as his airplane crashes on its trip to return from exile in Portugal. Later in July and August, Hitler and Mussolini would support the nationalist side in the war. Stalin and communist supporters from around the world, also known as international brigades, would support the Republicans. Hitler's volunteer group would be called the Condor Legion, and this is where he would practice his method of blitzkrieg and Luftwaffe terror bombing that would be later seen in World War II. At the start of the war, the Republic held almost two-thirds of the country, the gold reserves, the major urban centers, and most industry. Although, the Army of Africa was still in Morocco, and Franco knew the significance of the well-trained African Corps. So Italy and Germany provided aircraft to lift the divisions from Africa to Andalusia. This was the first airlift of troops in history, and was a big success, as the shock troops of Africa were menacing to the Republicans. The Italian bombers and escorts also helped out the Nationalist Navy transport the troops, as the enemy Republican warships were used inefficiently, and later the Germans and Italians were able to fully control the Strait of Gibraltar. The total force of the Army of Africa was split into two columns, one under Juan Yagüe and another under José Enrique Valera. Yagüe's column made great strides to the north and captured the city of Merida on August 10th, and then Yagüe's next move was to go west and encircle the town of Badajoz on the Portuguese border. Before the Battle of Badajoz, the city was bombarded for 3 days, and when the time was right, the Nationalists pressed into the city and captured it. This would start the chain of mass killings that the Nationalists would perform whenever they take a city, as estimates show that 2,000 to 4,000 civilians were killed after the capture, and Yagüe would now be known as the Butcher of Badajoz. The front of the Nationalists would now link up from north to south, and they used this advantage to arrive in Toledo on the 27th of September, where they relieved the siege of the Alcazar, where some 1,000 nationalist troops had been defending from a Republican force many times larger than theirs, and they had been defending for 3 months. In the front to take Madrid, the forces of the nationalists arrived at Madrid expecting an easy victory, but instead are matched against a strong force of international brigades, so their only option is to seize the city. During the defense of Madrid, the Republic developed the slogan of No Pasarán, from a speech of a communist activist, Dolores Barjuri Gomez. The initial attack on Madrid was on November 8th, and even though the Republican forces almost doubled the size of the nationalists, most were very poorly trained. Even though the Republicans were losing some of the city, Madrid kept receiving reinforcements over the next few days, both from the international brigades and workers' unions. And there are frequent radio broadcasts rallying the citizens with the line of No Pasarán. The last attempt of frontal attack on Madrid was on the 19th of November, but Franco stopped after to stop the loss of his best troops. The beginning months of 1937 saw many offensives by the nationalists, such as the Battle of Malaga in the southeast of Spain, and the heavy casualties in the Battle of the River Jarama, which was east of Madrid. The war in the north began in March, and with the help of the Condor Legion's air support, the nationalists conquered the Basque state and then the state of Asturias in October. Mid-months of 1937 saw a lot of infighting in the Popular Front, as the anarchist CNT were having disputes with the communists in the international brigades.